I would like to tell you about an outsourcing case that we did 2 years ago in TeliaSonera. And we set quite specific targets for this outsourcing. First of all, I wanted this outsourcing case to go in time, which has never been the case before in TeliaSonera. Secondly, I wanted to do it within budget, never done before either. And then I wanted to make a kind of template for how to do outsourcing in the future within TeliaSonera. Quite ambitious targets, but I can reveal already now that we made them all. And this is what I will tell you about how we did it. I will tell you about why we were doing the outsourcing and why we were aiming at the next generation outsourcing, how we were organizing, how we were focusing more on quality, not on cost, and how to motivate your partner, how to integrate your partner in the cooperation. So these are the things that I will cover in my presentation. But first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jens Erik Ebbesen. I come from TeliaSonera, the Nordic-Baltic operator. I'm head of the CIO functions within our CIO office and reports to the CIO. Before joining TeliaSonera, I have been working in more multinationals. I have been in and out of IT. I've been a business guy. I even started in Telia in the business side for 2 years until they exported me to Finland for 2 years. And so I have been in and out of IT. I've been also doing what we call general management. So my role today is to try to reveal to you what we did in this fabulous outsourcing case, which Gartner has been recognizing as one of the best outsourcing contracts in the Nordics. So, why were we bothering about next generation outsourcing? First of all, I have in my life seen many, many outsourcing cases, and I've seen many outsourcing cases failing due to the fact that they were based on, let's say, old thinking. I started my venture with utilizing Indian offshoring already in 1996. And I can tell you, like some of my friends here, I've done my mistakes too. So, why are outsourcing going wrong? First of all, we still have late laggards out there in our organization. And you probably have heard people outsourcing. You know, my cousin outsourced and it failed. And so never outsource. And I always reply to these people, does it mean that if you have an employee that fails that you will not have any more employees? Probably not the case. But we have to learn from our mistakes. So, why do outsourcing fail? There are many reasons for those. First of all, what I have been experiencing is that the real drivers for the outsourcing were not revealed when we started. Secondly, the scope was not defined in a proper way. And moreover, lack of senior management backing is also the case. So if there is a way that you can actually bypass a project, go to the top management and say, these guys, they are making a wrong thing here. Outsourcing too much or outsourcing everything is also typically a pitfall. No phasing, you do it in one big bang, and then you expect everything to happen the next day. And what we have heard also from your side on is no proper governance model. You just walk out in the blue and you expect everything will work the next day. Insufficient measurement and reporting, I think that was covered by you too. And no or limited innovation. And I think this is probably the most important part. We tend to outsource a car without gas, without tires, but we only have the car. And we have no money reserved for even maintaining the car in the long run. So this is one of the big things in outsourcing. Moreover, I have also experienced in my life in IT organization that the dynamics of an IT organization is that with year after year, cutting down your budget, you have to take in more and more services. And thereby you create an inbuilt dynamic of innovation in your IT organizations, because in order to make it for less money year after year and taking in more tasks, you need to innovate. And this is typically the part that will be missing in an outsourcing contract, because all these extra things that comes in will be at an additional cost. So this was one thing that we tried to persuade our vendor to take into consideration when we were doing the outsourcing case here. So these are typically pitfalls, quite generic I would say, but I could also add one more. Typically, you go out for outsourcing in order to cut costs, and that is, you're doomed to die if you do that. So, before going into our outsourcing goals, we did make some studies on what is the next generation outsourcing and what it's all about. And from one source, we have here the Black Book of Outsourcing. We see that there are 3 typical steps: the tactical, the strategical, and then the transformational outsourcing. Typically, the tactical outsourcing is where you have a certain problem that you want to solve. It could be everything, as Anna said, a messy kitchen that you want them to clean up for you. The next step will be strategic outsourcing. Here you're a little bit more mature about your outsourcing. Maybe you've tried it before and you have learned your lessons. And thereby you're trying to seek into more goals in the relationship rather than a buyer-supplier relationship. And transformational outsourcing is all about redefining your business. You have insufficient capability in supporting your business. And I think Anders made that also very clear, that without the outsourcing, they wouldn't have been able to support the IT the way they can do today. And this is all about speed. It's about how you can innovate and support your business in the best possible way. If we look at Gartner, they're talking about first generation, second generation, and third generation outsourcing. And the first generation outsourcing is all about as is, where is, or what we say typically mess for less. And this is a cost reduction part, typically. Second generation is a higher level of vendor management, high level of maturity, high level of, let's say, turning your relationship into a real relationship and not a buyer-supplier relationship. So quite the same thing as the Black Book of Outsourcing was telling about. And then the third generation application or outsourcing is all about a matter of existence. And so they were taking the step, focusing first on cost, then on services, and then on business outcome. And I think that was what we have heard from Anders as well this morning, so it goes very well hand in hand here. So this is the theoretical background. But how do you really enhance a level of business value in an outsourcing case, or why do we actually come into an outsourcing case? I did an MBA study 5 years ago at Copenhagen Business School, where the thesis was all about how to create business value from IT perspective. I ended up defining a little model here. And it's always nice when you have to explain things to make it simple. Use simple models, and here I will use a 4-quadrant here. On one axis we have the efficiency of effectiveness, and on the other side we have the business value. The lower part here is actually quite easy to measure. It's all about KPIs, it's about total cost of ownership, it's about benchmarking. It's typically what financial officers are good at doing. When it comes to the business value, however, it's more soft and it's hard to measure. So it's about direct profit, it's about stomach feeling surveys. You have to go and ask, do we really deliver business value? And then also SLAs can be an indicator of your delivering business value. However, we are now focusing in TeliaSonera today on more dynamics here, and we are trying to figure out how much we are spending on cost, on running the business, growing the business, and transforming the business. So every business case we're making nowadays are categorized into those 3 categories. But in this study here, we found out that if you end up in the lower left quadrant here, you are doomed to outsource. So if you have a very low efficiency and you deliver very little outsourcing or little business value, then there's no way out, outsource. However, if you go to the higher quadrant here and look at the Formula 1 position, this is a position where you have very low efficiency. It costs a hell of a lot of money to drive IT, but it also gives you a heck of a business competitiveness in the market. So typically this can be a situation for companies that have embedded IT in their products. And if the first place is second to the none. So this is a decision-wanted position. But it can also be driven by IT. If we have really technical guys that want to explore the CVs to make the CVs better, take in all new technology, without even asking the business if they can use it. And I have seen examples in my life where you saw fabulous data centers with an amount of capacity, the nicest tools in the world, but they were so poor in supporting the business. And then you end up in a lower quartile. The balanced approach is where we would like to go, and operational excellence is where IT were in the old days. It's about high performance in a basement, and it's about typically what banks are doing, or banks were doing in the old days. So these are the positions, and if you want to measure, typically we found a correlation in the studies that there is you will find yourself according to this line. And if you're below this line, you're typically doomed to outsource. And if you're above this line, you can sustain in your current IT organization. When you're trying to figure out, we did a study in the company where I was at the time, and we found ourselves more or less stuck here in the middle. We wanted, however, to be in this position up here, but the findings were that there is no direct path from where you are to where you want to go, because you always have to invest first, and then later on harvest the results. So you will always be pushed back on this graph here, because you need to have initial investment. But if you can't deliver business value, you will be stuck there. However, if you can prove your efficiency or effectiveness, you will deliver the business value. So this is one type of approach if you would like to demonstrate your business value without getting down to SEK, euros, or dollars on the balance sheet. Okay, in this outsourcing case I was referring to, we did an initial analysis. I was saying to you that one of the major pitfalls is that you never really know why you're outsourcing. We identified in this specifically outsourcing case more than 20 drivers. We also measured in the scheme here, or indicated in the scheme, if we were to do nothing, where will it take us, in what direction were we to go? And as you can see, we had a lot of drivers here, everything from lack of core competences to poor delivery management skills, language skills, aging pyramid, everything from that, even our incapability of further expanding geographically with our systems. So there was actually no way out. If we were to climb to the desired position here, we had to do a hell of a lot of training. We had to take in a lot of new employees, and that takes time, and we didn't have the time. So we decided to go for an outsourcing in this case. So I said to you before that this outsourcing case, we were not focusing so much on cost reduction, rather we were more focusing on getting the right quality. Or as my CIO says, we wanted to turn bad cost into good cost. So we were not necessarily looking after deep cost reduction. Typically outsourcing partners, when they come and present, they will promise you everything from 25 to 50% cost cutting. However, I have lived so much with outsourcing, I know it's not doable. You can do it for a short term, but you will wake up with a big headache afterwards. I think Andersen indicated that also in his speech. So, we were looking at how can we actually, what are the typical pitfalls when you're going into measuring quality in a project. The concept of value creation, according to the ITIL, derives from two topics here. And typically, this is the service utility. This is about how we are delivering the service and what quality, but also the service warranty, which is the likelihood of getting the services. And I see many outsourcing contracts only focusing on this part and neglecting this part as total. To demonstrate what it means, let's take the first part, the utility part. We have now a desired measurement, or a measurement here, but we want actually the outsourcing partner to improve our service and meet the new mean here. So all we do is that we say where we are today, and we tell the outsourcing partner where do we want to go. This is what, according to ITIL, is called the service utility. It's about bringing you forward or bringing you into the wanted position with your quality. However, it doesn't say anything about your quality. And I've seen many, many cases where the end user community are dissatisfied with the services, and the IT vendor says, yeah, but we are delivering according to the SLAs. And all the hassle comes from this part here. People that are not getting the services, because we are typically measuring the means. And you have to understand the spread in your measurements. And with customers down here, it's like having one rotten apple in a basket. Over time, they will all be rotten if you don't do anything about it. And that is why the warranty part comes very important. It's about what is the likelihood that I will get the services in the quality agreed, because these guys are not getting it. So the warranty part is about taking the spread and working specifically to enhance the service in such a way that more customers will get the agreed service, and thereby reducing the number of dissatisfied customers. So for every single SLA in our contract, we did specify the mean, but we also agreed on the spread on the curve. And we said to the vendor that it was his problem. We didn't care if of course we care if he didn't meet this SLA here, but it was up to him to ensure that the likelihood and the warranty part was also part of it. And this is part of innovation. So if we can't deliver without having a bit spread, they had to innovate in actually to get the service in the right quality. So this is how we were perceiving quality in our outsourcing case.
We have to because I see that you also decrease for those that
Yeah. But actually good service can also be bad. Because next time you're making a negotiation, they are expecting this good services, so it can be likely bad. So it is actually also good to deliver what you say you would deliver, and then in certain cases, of course, you can surprise. But it would be better then to take this mean up instead. All right. So how do you motivate your outsourcing partner? We found out a way to motivate him by carrot and by the stick at the same time. So when we're setting all these SLAs, you know that typically what you do is that you put in penalties if they don't meet it. We were not, however, interested in the money. We were interested in the quality. So what we did with this vendor, and we knew we were a small fish in a big bowl, and it could be troublesome sometimes to get the right management attention from their offshoring centers. What we did was that we made an agreement with the vendor, and we said to them, if you miss one, you miss them all. Thereby, they were doomed to pay a high penalty, even on a small failure in the SLAs. In my knowledge, because I've been working in an outsourcing partner, I knew that they would then set up measurements that in due time, when they see they are not to meet an SLA, they will take precautions to solve it before it happens. And they will have the attention from a top management team, because if they will have a penalty of that kind, it will be directly seen on the bottom line, and thereby the high management will actually be exposed by having this kind of high penalty. Second thing with the penalty, just to motivating, because if you just imply a measurement like this and you say every time you miss a single one, you will have to pay millions in penalty, this will not motivate your vendor. So there comes the carrot part of it. We then told the vendor, yes, you will in this specifically month face a big penalty if you don't meet our SLAs. However, if you, for the consecutive 2 months afterwards, are delivering according to the standard, you can owe this penalty back, thereby minimizing the risk for the company. However, we then ensure that they will do something about the quality. So this was one way of motivating the vendor, is not only just hit them with a stick, but also put up some kind of carrot on their plate. So the key factors was to focus, as Anna said, on the partnership. I have seen many, many, many outsourcing cases where the buyer is simply saying, these guys are bad. And then you just throw shit over the fence and you expect them to clean up after you. It won't work. So you have to have a true partnership. And with the partnership is also, you have to define common goals and you have to define common targets and setting the right kind of expectations. Moreover, you have to steer jointly. You have to have a joint management team and have clear responsibilities. What is my responsibilities and what is your responsibility? And it all comes back to your expectations. You have to make joint innovations, either in the part of where we were doing it as a part of the package, but also where you consistently sit down and say, okay, how can we actually improve this? You have to be trustworthy, and you have to help your partner if needed. And we have, in some cases, been backing up our partner if they had some problems in delivering certain kind of resources which they were supposed to do according to the contract. However, the dynamics in India is that if you come up with a higher paycheck, the nice guys will go away. So you also have to have some kind of understanding of their dynamics. Of course, they have to solve it, but you also have to be aware that if they have an incident, you are the one that will suffer afterwards, and you can as well help them. So these were some of the key factors that we're using in and then I have one more. It is typically I think the guy from Itella told that, yeah, but if we send out specifications, they will just make them as is. When it comes to India, strange thing happens and you have bad things coming back. What we did in ensuring that we had a good relationship and a good communication was this thing that I have learned from the army. As you saw from my career, I spent 10 years in the army. And from national exercises, what we did was always that we changed liaison officers. And I learned in the very, very early stages of my outsourcing career that it was a very good thing to have a local guy down there and take one of their local guys up to us and exchange liaison officers. That helps a lot, because what is being misunderstood locally in the specification phase can actually be corrected down there, offshore, with your local guys, because you can call your guy down there, you can tell him, hey, we now made this agreement, ensure that we're getting the right quality. And he will then run the floors. And it's much, much better down there to have a senior officer. And if you can put a senior officer with many stars on the shore, I mean, these guys will clap their heels and they will say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So it helps a lot, but it also helps to have some of their guys up here to see the shit coming back. So they can also do quality insurance in their deliveries. So it's worthwhile considering if you're going into a larger outsourcing to exchange the liaison officer. It costs a little, but it's worth paying it. How to build a common virtualized IT organization. We did, in this case, redesigned our capabilities and in between the business and the factory we created what we call the new Center of Excellence based on two pillars. One is the demand management and the other one is delivery management. This dynamic is now implemented throughout our IT organizations in the group now. So we have, first of all, now a much, much better relationship with the business. We try to get ahead of the decision making. We try to be there while and even before they're taking the decisions, because then we don't have to fight the decisions afterwards. Over here we are also making a lot of iterations, and we actually have joint teams now. We have joint management training, we have joint training sessions. We even have joint, let's say, festivals where we are going down there with some of our people, and we invite all the families and children and everything, because then we are helping our outsourcing partner to actually be an attractive customer to them. And we have decreased the number of people leaving our outsourcing corner by having these festivals once a year, where we also have, let's say, employee of the year, employee of the month, and so on.
Do you find it difficult to separate the demand from the delivery? Because you know that don't understand the demand, you cannot tailor the delivery.
No, that's true.
And what we see again and again is try to hand over the delivery part to someone who's very IT specific. All they do is try to standardize everything. So they cannot cope with the fact that the delivery has to be tailored. I think it's a challenge to create a team where you have somebody working on the delivery part and somebody else working on the demand.
That's true.
But apparently you solved it somehow.
We solved it by having, let's say, we were using the kind of, when I was a sales account manager at IBM, I had a role being out there, but I also knew I had some soldiers in the back that could help me in my organization. And we tried to make the demand side more acting like an account manager in a relationship. So actually, they are more or less account manager for the whole stack from here to here. And they have to know exactly which competences they can call in at a given time, because they themselves cannot be solving everything. So this is how we solved it. So we have now a corp of let's say, account managers, and they have to know especially where can I have the, oh, it's EDI, okay, that's 5 guys, or BIDW, those 5 guys. And they even know the guys all the way down to the factory.
So the delivery management is more following up on they get the deliveries done, but
They're following up what this guy's stupid sales guys is promising, and that it can actually be delivered.
I think it's a very interesting and new point, because I think trying to separate the two would be almost impossible. You
Yeah.
need to take responsibility for the whole chain.
You have to do that, end-to-end responsibility. What we did with the governance model, however, was that typically you will see an operational part, a tactical part, and a strategic part. The strategic part, I guess many of you guys have realized this is just a coffee club. Or sometimes they go out and play golf, and then they say they have, we have now a good agreement what we'll do next year. What we try to do in this governance model, we try to activate these guys. So what we do now is that we have formed a joint innovation forum, and based on input for this stack here, we'll come up with suggestions for innovation. And then the executive group will actually prioritize, and they will agree on the funding. Part of our outsourcing contract was that instead of negotiating the price down under the carpet, we reserved a pool of quite many money, millions actually, that was blocked for innovation. And we also agreed in the very early stages that this sum was not to be taken in as profit in our companies. So we put up this investment fund, and this will now be a self-funding wheel. So everything we gain, every time we make innovation where we are getting either cost reductions, or we save some money in other places, or we earn some money, these will go back into the innovation pot. And these guys now are now controlling and steering, prioritizing how we can use these funds, which is quite good. Because you typically see that people will they would like to see it going into their bottom lines or their P&Ls. So how do you design the organization? The typical pitfall is that in the retained organization, you take too many in from the old organization. You need fresh blood. I mean, you cannot change your business and then put in the same old soldiers that have been there for 22 years and then say, hey, I got a new suit and now I can deliver everything I couldn't deliver to you before, and even in the better quality. But if we're delivering poor quality, it's not my fault, it's those Indians out there. So we had to do something about that. We reduced from 118 people down to less than 20. And that was even too much. We should have gone down to 10.
Just one comment to that, what we also see is that people who are very IT skilled, they constantly try to kind of get into the IT vendor's business by telling him or her how to run their business. And that's a big problem when we've been trying to tell them, but I'm ordering a service, I evaluate the service. I don't bother saying you should do it like this, press this button, program like that,
Yeah.
because we used to do that. If you get stuck in that, then you can be 200 people.
Yeah. Because you have had people in the old organization that were used to do it on the keyboard, they could do it fast, And now they're not to do it, they have to tell these guys to do it, and they just have to measure the quality. And this is a total different role, and many guys will not like it. And the only way that you can keep their competence is actually put them into projects, and then make them project workers instead. So, new thinking but old mindset. So it's very, very important that you don't go out there and you say, here we have this nice new bottle of wine, new etiquette, but it's the same sour wine in a bottle. Roles and responsibility typically becomes unclear because the role changes. I mean, if I have been an SAP consultant before, keying in codes and configuration, I now have to now only make a specification, but rely that somebody else will do it. That's a typical pitfall that we don't really know what do I do and what does he do, and can I trust him? This is the worst part. Can I really trust him? But you have to. And then you have to back up your partner's resources. It goes both ways. So we are on vacation, they will need to have backups for us and vice versa. Because we're very volatile now. We have very, very slim organization. If one guy is sick, I mean, we're off, we have to then divert it into the factory. And no internal transformation. Typically you just continue the old ways, but in an outsourced environment. And you do not have the fresh blood. So, we were focusing on how do we actually bridge this, the business engagement and the factory engagement, as you said, Anders. And this is about the design phase. So you need to bridge this because these guys are typically very, very technical, whereas these guys, we decided that they were new hired. We didn't want to have a sales force now going out to our business and saying, hey, I'm Hans, been here 22 years, as I said before, and now I have a new role and I can deliver everything you want. We needed people with business experience. So we hired highly competent business people. And one qualification to get this job was that you had been in and out from IT. You also had to have at least some kind of understanding of IT. And I can tell you, those skills are very, very rare. And if you get them, they're also very expensive. They know what they're worth. But we took them in anyway, and it really paid off. It has now been 2 years from we launched this, and it's been one of the most successful things that we ever did, was to hire in those new account managers with the account management thinking, and that was another prerequisite. And then we put in the old guys here, the best of them that we had, the architects and designers, and they have two roles. They have to back up from these guys. They're participating in the meetings with the business, but they're also participating in meetings with the factory, and thereby ensuring that we get what the business wants is delivered to the factory. What we are trying to set up is also a rotating job, so these guys will be here for a time span of 4 years, then we kick them into the business, and then we like to refund from the business. We also try to see if there are persons that can develop in this direction. We do this already with the factory, we rotate people. So I have constantly some of my people out there, they have constantly some of their people up here. And even the factory can rotate with other factories out there. But it is very, very hard. It's very easy to get a flow this way. It's very, very hard to get a flow that way, I can tell you. If you have been here, you don't want to go back to the business. So we have actually now to kick people back without their will, but we have to promise them it's only for 2 years and you can come back. Because we don't want to lose them. So job rotation is very, very important. So, finally, why we were making a success. We carefully defined all the drivers that were needed while we were outsourcing. And we have benefited from that. We also did another thing. We, instead of specifying every service that we were doing that we wanted to outsource, we said to the vendor, here is a 20-row high-level matrix. Who is doing maintenance? Who is doing small development? Who is doing backup? Who is doing monitoring of the systems and so on? 20 things that were very, very high level. And then we said, you're responsible or we are responsible. And then you have to specify in your offer to us what we will have to pay additionally. And if you haven't specified that, meaning that if things comes in and you haven't specified it, you have to do it like we did in the old days. But then you have to innovate and work on constant innovation to bring down your costs so you actually can cope with that. And we will, of course, support you in it. So, no financial surprises. We have management backup. I had the top management team on TeliaSonera, board directors, in my steering group for this project. I can tell you that helps. And if people are bragging out there, no, it can't be done, I can tell, hey, you say you can't deliver? Do you want me to go to the CFO and tell them that you're not delivering? I mean, people will do something in their pants if I was telling that, because they were so scared about the CFO. So management backing is good. Outsourcing all maintenance service. We simply took all maintenance services out and said there is no maintenance to be left back. Everything that is entitled to be or tagged with maintenance goes off. We had a phased plan, so we implemented this in 5 steps over 2 years, and we have just now completed the last step. And we have, as you said, you have seen a comprehensive governance structure, and we have our resources secured, both in the factory side and in our side as well. The enhanced measurements come, we did agree on SLAs, we did agree on measurements, however, we had a clause in the contract saying this will change over time. Because there is no static SLA, there is no static measurement, as you said, on it. But we actually kept it in the contract saying, yes, this is what we start with. Then we had a plan, and we are following actually the SLA. There's a green SLA book from ITIL. We're following that book. We were only on page 10 when we entered the outsourcing, but we said within 2 years we will have to do it all. And it's your problem to implement it. But we set the target, commonly with you. And then we had this innovation fund. This is why we now have, every time we are having unforeseen, let's say, things, we can now go to this innovation fund and we can get it done without hiring the cost of our outsourcing contract. So we have actually maintained now an outsourcing contract with no financial surprises. We even said to the vendor that if there will come surprises over the year, they will have to finance it until we go into our budget period. And if we can't persuade the CFO that we will get more money, we will then have to go back to you and say, how can we innovate us out of this problem? So we will have absolutely no financial surprises. And that keeps the CFO in his right bench, in his right corner. We don't have him on our backs all the time. So these are examples of how we made this outsourcing successful. And I just wanted to say, if you want any more information, you can come to me in a break, and we can have more discussions. Thank you very much.